Hello, my name is Donovan Simone Martinez, and welcome to my presentation on why I think progressive fines are our future. Why should a fine be half of one person's paycheck and pocket change to another? This doesn't seem very fair. This is the question that I hope to address here today. Now, in my speech, I will be going over a number of topics, such as our current fining system, which is a fixed fining system, why I believe this fining system to be ineffective, and what I believe to be a better alternative to a fixed fining system. Before I continue my presentation, I would like to go over some vocabulary words that will be used quite often in my speech. Some you've already heard. Firstly, a fine. A fine is a penalty imposed on a person or entity for committing criminal or illegal acts. Next, a fixed fine. A fixed fine is a fine which rates are flat, which means someone with an annual income of 20,000 will pay the same amount as someone with an annual income of 200,000 for the same crime. Lastly, progressive fines or income-based fines. Progressive fines are fines in which the rates are not flat, which means someone who has an annual income of 20,000 will pay significantly less than someone who has an annual income of 200,000. Now, how does our current fining system work? The severity of the offense is a key factor in determining the amount owed. However, judicial discretion, aka at the discretion of a judge, allows for the tailoring of fines based on an offender's financial circumstances and history. This is supposed to ensure fines are equitable and prevent undue hardship. However, this is typically used to raise fines, as fines contribute heavily to raising revenue and making up for budget shortfalls. Most fines come from legal financial obligations. Things such as arrest fees, bench warrant fees, lawyer fees, crime lab fees, jury fees, and victim assessments. There are even fees for sleeping in jail. In 1991, just 25% of convicted people received court-ordered fines. In 2004, 66% did. Now, a study conducted by the National Public Radio says that in at least 43 states, defendants must pay a fee for a public defender. In at least 41 states, they are charged room and board for prison stays. And in every place but Washington, D.C., they must pay to wear an electronic home monitoring device. Now, in states such as North Carolina, there are fines for seemingly everything. Defendants unable to afford a lawyer are assessed $60 before a judge considers whether to appoint one. Once a lawyer is appointed, the defendant must pay an hourly fee. If the defendant is held in jail, unable to make bail before trial, he must pay a $10 a day fee. If he is placed on pretrial release, he must pay a $15 a day fee. There is a $600 fee if the prosecutor decides to test evidence at the state crime lab. Many of these charges cannot be waived by a judge. Now, most people are too poor to pay these fines, and so they have to pay interest. And there's even such thing as a poverty penalty. Fines and fees are often doubled and tripled when an individual cannot make the initial payment. This can be catastrophic for the poor. The rich and powerful can afford to pay these insane fines and whatever fees they may incur. However, the average person cannot. Better alternative would be progressive fines. But how do progressive fines work? One example of progressive fines would be day fines. Now, Finland was the first to adopt day fines in 1921. However, since most of my information comes from Sweden, that is where my main focus will be. Sweden adopted their day fines in 1935. Finland and Sweden are just a few countries that have adopted day fines over the years. Day fines are calculated by dividing the offender's daily income in half and then multiplying that amount by the number of days the offenders must pay. The number of days needed to pay varies by the severity of the offense. Now, some benefits of this is that punishment would be equally as harsh for everyone, and it would be a better deterrent for the wealthy, as it would be just as damaging for them to pay a fine as it would be for the average person. Fines would not cause people to hit rock bottom nearly as often, as it won't take 90 to 100% of their income, and people won't be sent into debt nearly as often. There are some concerns when it comes to progressive fines. Some people are concerned with targeting. They think people who look wealthier will be targeted more. But targeting already exists. African Americans and other minorities are targeted every day. Targeting will exist in every day and age and eventually happen to every group. But the wealthy still have their power and connections, which are used just as much to get out of fines as their income. Some people are concerned with how income will be calculated. Well, as previously stated, daily income is a proven method. However, I have heard that net worth is a worthy alternative to consider. Some people might not want to change. They might think we've survived this long, why change now? But that's because they haven't been affected by these damaging fines. For example, Janet Blair Cato, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, received a barking ticket because the abandoned dogs she rescued made too much noise. Police also gave her tickets for failing to obtain proper vaccinations and buy dog tags. In total, she owed thousands of dollars. She missed an installment on her payment, and the judge issued a warrant for her arrest. She spent 52 days in jail. 2 days after her release, she received a new barking ticket. She has since stopped rescuing dogs. The link on this slide will bring you to the page which I found this story, as well as so many other stories just like this. This isn't an offhand, one-time thing. This is a consistent thing that has happened to many people. In conclusion, progressive fines are a better alternative to fixed fines for the average American. They do have flaws, but we can fix those flaws and create an even better system than we currently have. And in my opinion, we have to do this for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for the future generations that will come after us, so that they don't have to suffer the way that we have. These are the references I used for this presentation. If you would like to increase your knowledge on fixed fines and progressive fines, or go deeper into the specifics of each, I would suggest clicking on any number of these links to further your education. Thank you.